How many of you remember the good old-fashioned conference call? Anybody? A few. You know the one you had to enter a ton of digits, participant IDs, passcodes, the one without the camera. With Zooms and Teams calls these days, it's easy to forget. It actually wasn't that long ago when our conference call was our main virtual connector. I've worked for Epic for the past 21 years, helping large healthcare organizations implement an integrated electronic health record. Prior to March 2020, our implementation approach was based on the foundation that we worked alongside our customers. We helped them make some workflow decisions, build some things in the system, test those things, train some users, and get live. In order to do that, I got on airplanes and in rental cars, and I went out to billing offices, hospitals, clinics, and I helped guide our customers through the phases of an implementation. By doing that, I could see the impact I was making, and I felt close to the work. This is the last job I planned to have, but I did not always feel that way. I had a moment about 15 years ago that was so profound for me that it's when I decided this is the last job I want to have. I had the pleasure of leading the implementation of Epic at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And about 15 years ago, I was sitting in a nondescript conference room towards the back, and an Epic presenter was at the front of the room. And the person was walking through a workflow. And the workflow that day had to do with check-in at a clinic. And the process, the person up front was describing the workflow, and they were talking through, okay, the patient and their family is going to present at the front desk. They're going to collect some information. They're going to verify insurance, and they're going to get checked in for the visit. Now, I've been in a lot of workflow discussions over the years, and the ones that you instantly think of that really connect you to the mission of electronic health record is not registration and check-in. It's how are we going to do real-time trauma documentation in the emergency room? Or what are we going to document on mom versus baby when a customer is doing an intrauterofetal surgery? Okay? This workflow that day was kind of boring, to be frank. It was boring until the speaker got to the point in the workflow where he said, all right, so now we're going to, you can collect documents in Epic, and you can collect like a consent to treat, the HIPAA privacy, and I'm snoozing a little. And all of a sudden, a member of the audience raises his hand, and I perk up at this, and I'm like, oh boy. And I noticed that the person that's raising his hand, he was well known to us because we came to know him because he was a member of the Patient and Family Advisory Board at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. They had members of their Patient and Family Advisory Board attend these workflow sessions, which I thought was a great idea, by the way. Anyway, we came to know this person because he was a dad of several foster children who were medically complex and who were seen across Cincinnati Children's. And at the point in the workflow, when the presenter's describing, we're going to collect these documents, and they're all going to live at the patient level. So no matter where you go in the organization, those are going to be available. This point, the man brings this accordion file from underneath the desk, and he puts it right on top of the table. And he said, does this mean that I no longer have to carry this around to all the various visits for the kids that I take care of? Do you mean all that's going to be in there? And it was in that moment that I realized, in the simplest of workflows, that the work that I get to do improves the quality of life for families like his. And that's when I decided this is the last job that I want to have. That moment at Cincinnati Children's Hospital started my realization that Preflection is immensely important in my role as a leader at Epic, and I knew I had to find ways to motivate others around me to find their own why and their meaning behind the work we do. It is important, of course, to do reflection, right? Look after the fact, but I think it's much more powerful to do preflection. I have a challenge for all of you. The next time you start your next project or endeavor, I want you to ask yourself, What will future you be proud of? What will future you be proud of when you finish? And I think what you're going to find is that is going to lead to greater personal motivation when you start with your end game first. Now let's all rewind in our minds to end of February 2020. Do you know where you were? I was in New York City supporting the Columbia campus of New York Presbyterian Hospitals after they had just gone live after an intense 2-year Epic implementation across Weill Cornell Medicine, Columbia Doctors, and New York Presbyterian Hospitals. Why do one academic when you could do multiple, right? I was boarding the plane to fly home, fully intending to be back on site the week of March 16th. Never could I have imagined that, of course, the world was going to shut down and that New York City was going to become the focal point in the fight against COVID, at least initially. Our old normal ended. In that moment, gone was my ability to get on site with customers and see the difference that I was going to make. I feared I would never be able to walk around a hospital or a billing office or a clinic and understand and appreciate the impact that the software has on the patients and families our customers serve. So spring 2020, we're all working from home. We are increasing our inventory of soft pants, highly recommend. And we are on Zooms constantly from our kitchen tables and our makeshift living room offices. At the same time, I had a college-age daughter who was now home taking Zoom school, and I had a middle school-age son who was home doing online 8th grade. Side note, I am still shocked that it seems that the 8th grade only took about 45 minutes of active engagement a day. And I am fairly certain that the teachers who thought Zoom band class was a good idea did not have a 14-year-old tuba player at home. This really started my understanding that we had to get creative with work fulfillment. Preflection was more important than ever. But how much more difficult was it? I couldn't just ask, what is future you going to be proud of? Because we're looking at a Zoom screen. I had to figure out a way. Preflection was going to have to look different. Okay, so now let's fast forward to late 2020. Late 2020. We are settling into less in-person work, a little bit of hybrid. I have still not figured out how exactly to settle into my new work in this weird and unsettled time. And in October of that year, Emory Healthcare joined our Epic family. Now, Emory is huge. Emory has 11 hospitals. They have hundreds of clinics. In fact, they do 10,000 ambulatory visits every day. And I'm very happy to tell you all that I took 36,000 end users live in a single day across every entity that Emory has this past October 2022. But when Emory signed their Epic contract in October of 2020, we all thought, oh, this is not an ideal time to kick off a massive, complex project like this, because we still had not figured out how to successfully do implementation in this different time. So here I was starting this Emory project, and I had 65 Epic staff assigned to the project with me. Half of them were brand new employees. I was really worried that we were going to suffer staff unhappiness and they were going to lack the fulfillment that I had experienced for all those years, because for the first 9 months of the Emory project, we never went on site, we never met them, we met them through the Zoom. I was also really worried about our counterparts on the Emory side, because I was worried they were not going to see the connection that we have and the impact that their work was going to have on the patients across Emory Healthcare. Their executives found Zoom filters. I've never seen so much joy from a CEO. And we continued through the project. We inserted lots of intentional preflection along the way. We did pre-mortems. So we asked, what are all the bad things that could possibly happen on this implementation? And then we did risk mitigation plans to make sure that we were prepared if and when they happened. We did so many look-aheads, I couldn't even count. And my favorite look-ahead was I do a little ditty called What to Expect When You're Expecting an Epic Go Live. We tried to forecast everything we possibly could, and we inserted so much intentional preflection, asking both the Epic and the Emory staff, what will future you be proud of when we get live? Big events look different. We couldn't just get on site and have 300 people in an auditorium and do the events that I was so used to. So we got creative, and we themed everything we possibly could. They love a theme, And costumes, lots of costumes. There was a lot of Amazon ordering. Because we got creative and because we persevered, we finally did get on site a couple of times before the massive go live in October of 2022. But we did it. We went through, we got the hard stuff done. They made all their dates. We went live on time, and we have successful end users. And did I mention they love a theme? Preflection is now a tool at the top of my toolbox. And in fact, when we asked, what will future you be proud of when you finish this project? We were about 30 days prior to go live, and I remember reading through those preflections, and I was beaming with pride because I knew we were about to accomplish all those things that we said we were going to do. Now, it's good to look back at how far we've come and really understand and appreciate how we adapted to the new normal. I have learned so many things over the past couple of years, mostly how you have to be intentional, how it takes effort, how you have to be creative, and don't get too comfortable just because you did something the same way for so many years. I hope that all of you look back, future you looks back on your personal and your professional careers, and that you are happy, proud, and motivated. And I'm fairly certain that this little girl here could not have imagined that future her would have the opportunity to be right here. Thank you so much for listening.